Soldiers have used various types of cups throughout history, but one of the most iconic is the canteen cup. This metal cup, often made of aluminum or stainless steel, fits snugly around the base of a military canteen and has been a staple of soldier gear for over a century. Canteen cups are incredibly versatile. They're not just for drinking water. Soldiers have used them to boil water, cook food, and mix rations in the field. The design has remained largely unchanged since 1910, when the U.S. military introduced a kidney-shaped aluminum canteen with a matching cup. Even with modern hydration systems like Camelbox, many soldiers still prefer the traditional canteen and cup because of its simplicity and reliability. It's a piece of gear that has stood the test of time. Soldiers have used a variety of cups throughout history, depending on the era, military branch, and available materials. Here are some notable types. Tin cups. Before the introduction of the canteen cup, soldiers often carried small tin cups with a loop handle. These were common in the 19th century, including during the Civil War. Enamelware cups. Some armies issued enamel-coated metal cups, which were more durable and resistant to rust. Aluminum canteen cups. Introduced in 1910, these kidney-shaped cups became standard for U.S. troops and were designed to nest around the base of a canteen. Stainless steel canteen cups. Later versions replaced aluminum with stainless steel for better durability and heat resistance. Plastic and polymer cups. Modern military forces sometimes use lightweight plastic cups, particularly in mess kits. Collapsible cups. Some soldiers carried collapsible cups made of rubber or silicone for easy storage. Ceramic mugs. While not standard issue, ceramic mugs have been used in barracks and military bases for casual drinking. Tin cups were a standard issue item for soldiers during the Civil War, used for drinking water, coffee, and even eating soups and stews. These cups were typically handmade from hot-dipped tin plate, which was durable but prone to rust over time. The design was simple: a cylindrical body with a wired lip for strength and a soldered handle attached to the side. They were lightweight and easy to carry, making them an essential part of a soldier's mess kit. Some cups even had markings like U.S. for Union soldiers or CS for Confederate troops. Soldiers often heated coffee or food directly in their tin cups over campfires. Though this could weaken the solder over time, many reenactors today use historically accurate reproductions to experience what Civil War soldiers carried. Don't be scared of your heart's intuition. This song is for the people who find themselves between two paths. www.x.com/aurora music. Spartacus, c. 111–71 BCE. Why famous? Thracian gladiator turned rebel leader who led a massive slave uprising against Rome, Third Civil War. Alvin York, 1887–1964. Why famous? American World War I soldier who earned the Medal of Honor for leading an attack on a German machine gun nest, capturing 132 prisoners. Notable feats: Battle of the Argonne Forest, 1918. Legacy: portrayed in the film Sergeant York, 1941, a symbol of American heroism. Simo Häyhä, 1905–2002. Why famous? Finnish sniper, nicknamed White Death, credited with over 500 kills during the Winter War against the Soviet Union, 1939–1940. Notable feats: operated in sub-zero conditions, using iron sights and blending into the snow. Legacy: regarded as the deadliest sniper in history, a folk hero in Finland. Joan of Arc, 1412–1431. Why famous? French peasant girl turned warrior saint who led France to victories in the 100 Years' War, inspiring troops with her divine visions. Notable feats: lifting the siege of Orleans, 1429, and enabling Charles VII's coronation. Legacy: canonized as a saint, a global icon of courage and faith. Hannibal Barca, 247–183 BCE. Why famous? Carthaginian general whose audacious tactics during the Second Punic War stunned Rome. Known for crossing the Alps with war elephants. Notable feats: victory at Cannae, 216 BCE, a masterpiece of tactical encirclement. Legacy: a symbol of defiance against overwhelming odds, admired by military historians. Alexander the Great, 356–323 BCE.
Why famous? Macedonian king and general, considered one of history's greatest military commanders. Conquered much of the known world, from Greece to India, with unmatched tactical brilliance. Notable feats: battles of Issus and Gaugamela, creating an empire that spread Greek culture, Hellenization. Legacy, revered in military history. His strategies are still studied in war colleges. Fame for soldiers often comes from extraordinary bravery, leadership, or cultural impact. Cultural archetypes. Across cultures, certain soldier types are revered as legendary due to their symbolic roles. Knights, chivalric warriors, like King Arthur's Knights of the Round Table. Samurai, Japanese warriors bound by Bushido, like the 47 Ronin. Shaolin monks, Chinese warrior monks blending martial arts and spirituality. Soldier Moon Magazine X Cups. Mythic archetypes in games. Classes or roles in games like RPGs or strategy titles. Paladin, holy warriors blending combat and divine magic, e.g., in Dungeons & Dragons or World of Warcraft. Ninja/assassin, stealth-based fighters, like those in Assassin's Creed or Naruto's Shinobi. Berserker, rage-fueled warriors, common in games like God of War, Kratos. Rebel heroes, soldiers fighting against oppressive regimes. www.x.com/sabrina-craves/status/1926729988918989238. Fictional legendary soldiers. These are archetypes from modern literature, films, games, or other media. Super soldiers, enhanced or engineered warriors. Master Chief, Halo, a cybernetically enhanced Spartan super soldier fighting alien threats. Captain America, Marvel Steve Rogers, transformed by the super soldier serum, embodies peak human ability. Monster Slayers, warriors famed for defeating supernatural foes. Beowulf, Anglo-Saxon epic slew Grendel and a dragon, embodying heroic sacrifice. Gilgamesh, Mesopotamian epic king and warrior who battled mythical creatures like Humbaba. These figures come from ancient stories or religious texts, often blending human and divine traits. Divine warriors, heroes with godlike powers or divine favor. Achilles, Greek mythology near-invincible warrior of the Trojan War, vulnerable only at his heel. Arjuna, Hindu mythology master archer in the Mahabharata, guided by Krishna. Thor, Norse mythology god of thunder, wielding Mjolnir, a warrior against giants. Lone heroes, individuals whose singular acts of valor became legendary. Audie Murphy, USA WWII's most decorated American soldier, known for single-handedly holding off German troops. Simo Häyhä, Finland World War II sniper, nicknamed White Death, credited with over 500 kills. Heroic commanders, leaders whose strategic genius or bravery made them legends. Alexander the Great, Macedonia conquered much of the known world by 33, leading from the front. Joan of Arc, France, a teenage peasant who inspired French victories during the 100 Years' War. Miyamoto Musashi, Japan, a samurai and swordsman, undefeated in duels, author of the Book of Five Rings. Soldier Moon Magazine X Cups. Historical legendary soldiers. These are real-world warriors whose feats have become legendary, often embellished over time. Elite warriors, highly trained soldiers from renowned military units. Spartan hoplites, ancient Greece known for their discipline and sacrifice, like the 300 at Thermopylae led by King Leonidas. Roman centurions, leaders of Roman legions, famed for tactical prowess, like Julius Caesar's centurions in Gaul. Viking berserkers, Norse warriors who fought in a frenzied state, often shirtless, inspiring fear. Mythological legendary soldiers. Paper ephemera refers to printed and/or written items, often created for a specific purpose and intended to be discarded after use, but now often collected and cherished. It includes items like tickets, flyers, postcards, and other materials that were once considered temporary. Elaboration. Transient nature. The term ephemera implies a temporary or fleeting existence, meaning the items were not originally intended for long-term preservation. Military soldier paper ephemera includes a fascinating range of historical documents and collectibles. Some examples include letters and postcards, personal correspondence from soldiers, often detailing their experiences in war. Maps and charts, tactical maps used in military operations. training manuals, instructional guides for soldiers on combat techniques and survival, propaganda leaflets, flyers distributed during wartime to influence morale and public opinion, photographs, images capturing soldiers, military bases, and wartime events, discharge papers, official documents marking a soldier's exit from service, war newspapers and magazines, publications covering military events and battles. Mars, in Roman mythology, is the god of war and also an agricultural guardian. He was one of the most important deities in the Roman pantheon, second only to Jupiter. His Greek counterpart is Ares, though Mars was seen as more disciplined and strategic compared to Ares, who is often depicted as chaotic and bloodthirsty. Other celestial gods include Jupiter, the king of the gods and associated with the planet Jupiter, and Venus, the goddess of love and beauty, linked to the planet Venus. In Norse mythology, Tyr is a god of war, often compared to Mars. Mars and Ares, though both gods of war, have distinct mythological narratives. Ares. Greek mythology. The Trojan War, Ares sided with the Trojans, but was wounded by the Greek hero Diomedes with Athena's help, showing his impulsive and reckless nature. Affair with Aphrodite. Ares had a famous love affair with Aphrodite, the goddess of love. Hephaestus, her husband, trapped them in an invisible net and exposed them to the other gods, leading to their humiliation. Captured by giants, Ares was once imprisoned in a bronze jar by the Elodi giants for 13 months until Hermes rescued him. Mars in Roman mythology. Father of Romulus and Remus, Mars was considered the divine father of Romulus and Remus, the legendary founders of Rome, reinforcing his role as a protector of the Roman state. The festival of Mars celebrated in March. This festival honored Mars as both a war deity and an agricultural guardian. While Ares was often depicted as chaotic and bloodthirsty, Mars was seen as a disciplined and strategic protector of Rome. Soldier Moon Magazine x Mars. Here are some additional myths about Mars and Ares showcasing their roles in war and mythology. Ares in Greek. The children of Ares fathered Phobos aka Fear and Deimos or Terror, who accompanied him into battle, spreading panic among warriors. Ares versus Hercules. Ares attempted to avenge his son, Cycnos, who was slain by Hercules. However, Hercules, aided by Athena, defeated Ares. Ares and the Amazons. Ares was closely linked to the warrior women known as the Amazons, who were said to be his daughters or followers. Mars in Roman mythology. Mars altar or Mars the Avenger. Augustus built a temple to Mars or altar honoring him as the Avenger of Julius Caesar. Mars and the sacred shield. The Ancyli is a sacred shield, and was said to have fallen from the heavens as a gift from Mars to protect Rome. Mars and the October horse. A ritual sacrifice of a horse was performed in October to honor Mars, marking the end of the military campaign season. Mars was seen as a protector of Rome, while Ares was often depicted as chaotic and bloodthirsty. Microsoft. Porcupine quill characteristics vary significantly between the two families. Hystricidae or Old World porcupines and Erethizontidae or New World porcupines, and even among species within these families. Below is a detailed breakdown of quill characteristics, focusing on structure, function, appearance, and variation across species. New World porcupines has 19 species across 4 genera known as Coendu, Erethicin, Chietomes, Sphigerus, found in North, Central, and South America. They are mostly arboreal, smaller, and have single quills with barbs. Examples include the North American porcupine Erethicin dorsatum and the Brazilian porcupine or Coendu prehensilis. Old World porcupines or Hystricidae 11 species across 3 genera Atheruris, Hystrix, Trichis, found in Europe, Africa, and Asia. They are terrestrial, larger, and have quills grouped in clusters. Examples include the African crested porcupine Hystrix cristata and the long-tailed porcupine Trichis fasciculata. There are 30 species of porcupines worldwide, divided into 2 families. Hystricidae Old World porcupines and Erethizontidae or New World porcupines. These species are distributed across various genera, with differences in size, habitat, and quill characteristics. Polarization can describe group dynamics where individuals adopt more extreme views after discussions within like-minded groups, often called group polarization. This is driven by social reinforcement and can amplify biases or radicalize opinions. In polar molecules like water, uneven charge distribution leads to partial positive and negative regions, affecting properties like solubility. For example, in the US, growing partisan divides on issues like immigration or climate change reflect political polarization. Studies, like those from Pew Research, show increasing ideological distance between Democrats and Republicans since the 1990s. Polarization is the divergence of attitudes, beliefs, or opinions toward extremes, often creating division between groups. In politics, it describes when people or parties move toward opposing ideological extremes, reducing common grounds. Both religion and politics often see arguments framed as binary, e.g., believer versus atheist, left versus right, with little room for nuance, fueling heated debates. Polarization. Unknown German master. Madonna on a crescent moon in Hortus Conclusus. C. 1450. Religion and politics are deeply divisive topics, and arguments often stem from differing values, beliefs, and interpretations of evidence or authority. Hold on, I'm handing over my keyboard to them so they can just type everything for me. It's a common argument they thought they could drag me into it. Pseudepigrapha. Works like the Book of Enoch, Jubilees, and Testaments of the 12 Patriarchs are attributed to ancient figures Enoch or Moses, but were likely written later 3rd century BCE to 2nd century CE. They explore cosmology, angelic hierarchies, and messianic expectations, influential in both Jewish and early Christian though. Apocrypha. Books like 1 and 2 Maccabees, Tobit, Judith, and Wisdom of Solomon are part of the deuterocanonical books in Catholic and Orthodox Bibles but excluded from the Jewish Tanakh and Protestant Old Testament. They were written mostly between 200 BCE and 100 CE, often in Greek, and reflect Jewish history, wisdom, and piety. Hidden equals secret equals occult. Apocryphal texts from Greek apokryphos, meaning hidden, are writings that resemble canonical scriptures but were not included in the Jewish Tanakh or Christian Bible. They often contain alternative narratives, teachings, or traditions. An outfit that rewrote history.
Key difference. Left libertarians see concentrated property ownership as a threat to liberty, seeking to balance freedom with equality. Right libertarians view private property and markets as the foundation of liberty, opposing restrictions on individual economic freedom. Key thinkers, influenced by Ayn Rand, Ludwig von Mises, Milton Friedman, or Robert Nozick. Aligns with the U.S. Libertarian Party or anarcho-capitalism. Social issues, often neutral or conservative-leaning, focusing on individual rights over collective social goals. Supports personal freedoms, gun rights, free speech, but may be less vocal on systemic social issues unless they involve government overreach. Right libertarianism. Core focus. Emphasizes individual liberty through strong private property rights and minimal government intervention, prioritizing free market capitalism. Property and economics. Defends absolute private property rights and laissez-faire capitalism. Views the market as the best mechanism for resource allocation and opposes government redistribution or regulation. Left libertarianism and right libertarianism both prioritize individual liberty and limited government, but they differ significantly in their views on property, economics, and social issues. Left libertarianism. Core focus. Emphasizes personal freedom alongside social equality, often advocating for collective or communal ownership of resources. Critiques private property when it leads to hierarchical power structures or wealth concentration. Property and economics. Supports common ownership of natural resources, land, water, and often favors cooperative or mutualist economic systems. Rejects capitalism if it creates monopolies or exploitation, but may support free markets with equitable access to resources. Social issues. Strongly progressive, advocating for social justice, anti-authoritarianism, and dismantling oppressive systems. Patriarchy. Racism views individual liberty as tied to social equality. Key thinkers. Influences from thinkers like Peter Kropotkin, Murray Bookchin, or modern left libertarians like Gary Chartier. Aligns with libertarian socialism or anarchism in some cases. Context matters. Not all liberals use or identify with every symbol. Some are specific to subgroups, progressives versus moderates, or causes, environmentalism versus social justice. Regional variations. Symbols may differ outside the US. For example, in Europe, liberal parties might use doves or specific colors, e.g. yellow for Liberal Democrats in the UK. Evolving usage. Symbols can shift over time. For instance, the rainbow flag has expanded to include more colors to represent broader inclusivity. Coexist logo. Features symbols of various religions: crescent moon, cross, Star of David arranged to spell coexist. Promotes tolerance, diversity, and interfaith harmony, values often championed by liberals. Butterfly or sunrise. Used by some progressive campaigns, e.g., Sunrise Movement, to symbolize hope, transformation, and environmental renewal. Pink hat. A knitted pink hat with cat ears, originating from the 2017 Women's March. Represents women's rights, feminism, and resistance to policies seen as anti-woman. Green symbols: earth, trees, globe. Used in environmental activism like the Green New Deal, supported by many progressive liberals. Imagery often includes green leaves, recycling symbols, or the planet to emphasize climate action. Rainbow flag. Represents LGBTQ+ rights, equality, and pride. Widely used by liberals advocating for social justice, inclusion, and diversity. Variants like the Progress Pride flag with additional colors for marginalized groups are also common. Donkey. The official symbol of the Democratic Party, often depicted in blue. Represents the party's identity, tied to historical roots in Andrew Jackson's campaigns. Raised fist. A symbol of solidarity, resistance, and social justice. Often used in movements like Black Lives Matter, which many liberals support to signify unity against systemic inequality. Peace sign. Associated with anti-war and pacifist movements which align with some liberal platforms. Frequently seen in protests or campaigns advocating for diplomacy or gun control. Blue wave. A metaphorical and visual symbol often depicted as a wave graphic used to represent Democratic electoral momentum, especially during midterm elections 2018. Pool sign. Popularized by the Human Rights Campaign. Symbolizes marriage equality and broader civil rights, a key liberal cause. Libertarian policies. Deregulating industries, abolishing income tax, legalizing recreational marijuana, and privatizing education. Liberal policies. Universal health care, raising the minimum wage, climate change regulations, and expanding voting rights. Key philosophical difference. Libertarian. Prioritizes negative liberty, freedom from interference, viewing government as the primary threat to individual autonomy. Liberal. Emphasizes positive liberty, freedom to achieve potential, seeing government as a tool to enable opportunities and correct societal inequities. Foreign policy. Libertarian, non-interventionist, advocating for minimal military presence abroad, reduced defense spending, and avoiding foreign entanglements unless directly threatened. Liberal, supports international cooperation, humanitarian interventions, and diplomacy. May endorse military action for human rights or global stability with a focus on multilateral efforts. Welfare and safety nets. Libertarian, opposes government-run welfare programs, arguing they infringe on individual freedom and are inefficient. Favors private charity and voluntary support systems. Liberal, strongly supports welfare programs, Social Security, universal health care, food assistance to ensure a baseline standard of living and reduce poverty. Social issues. Libertarian emphasizes personal freedoms, free speech, gun rights, drug legalization, and opposes government involvement in social matters, whether progressive or conservative. Neutral on cultural issues unless they involve state coercion. Liberal actively supports social equality and justice, advocating for policies like affirmative action, marriage equality, and protections against discrimination. Views government as a tool to advance progressive social goals. Property rights. Libertarian, strongly defends private property rights as central to liberty. Views unrestricted ownership and trade as fundamental. Liberal, supports private property but is open to restrictions, eminent domain, environmental regulations to serve the public good or promote equity. Libertarian and liberal policies both value individual freedoms but differ significantly in their approach to government, economics, and social issues. Role of government. Libertarian advocates minimal government intervention in both personal and economic life. Seeks to reduce or eliminate government programs, regulations, and taxes, emphasizing individual responsibility and voluntary interactions. Liberal supports an active government role to promote social welfare, equality, and economic stability. Favors government programs like healthcare, education, and social safety nets to address systemic issues. Economic policies. Libertarian promotes free market capitalism with minimal regulation, low or no taxes, and privatization of services. Healthcare. Education opposes wealth redistribution and subsidies. Liberal
Libertarianism
favors
struggles to
regulated
gain traction in
capitalism,
Scotland
progressive
due to strong public support for the
taxation
welfare
and wealth
state
redistribution
and EU
to
membership.
reduce inequality.
Critics argue it's anti-welfare
Supports government
and
intervention
anti-EU
to
stances
provide public
clash with
goods,
Scottish
protect
values.
workers, and
Historical
regulate
context.
industries for consumer
Scotland
and
has a
environmental
libertarian
protection.
intellectual tradition, with figures like Adam Smith, the philosopher of free markets, and David Hume, known for his skepticism of authority. The party maintains an active online presence, including a website updated for the 2024 general election and a podcast, Scottish Liberty Podcast, hosted by Tam Laird and Anthony Samaroff. They engage on issues like free speech and government overreach. In the 2021 Scottish Parliament election, they contested all 8 regions and 9 constituencies, securing 4,987 regional votes, 0.2%, and 1,913 constituency votes, 0.1%. In the 2016 Scottish Parliament election, the party ran in several regions and Edinburgh Central, gaining 1,805 votes total. Promotes diplomacy over military or economic force, with war as a last resort requiring legislative approval. Scottish independence supports independence to achieve greater liberty, but opposes EU membership, viewing it as trading one foreign master for another. They favour free trade and open borders with minimal controls. Advocates for a free market economy, opposing the welfare state and government intervention in sectors like education and healthcare. They propose low taxes and deregulation to boost Scotland's economy. Strong emphasis on free speech, opposing restrictions like the SNP's hate speech laws, which they compare to authoritarian regimes. Scottish Libertarian Party. Founding and history. Established on January 3, 2012, by Daniel Logan Scott, the party faced initial registration issues with the Electoral Commission due to naming conflicts with the Libertarian Party UK. It was officially registered in March 2016 after a relaunch under Alan Findlay. The current leader is Tam Laird, a former soldier who has led the party for about 6 years. House Ambassador Rose wears Tiffany & Company designs for W Magazine China. Rose wears a necklace, bracelets and rings from the Hardware by Tiffany collection and a lock by Tiffany bracelet with diamonds. She also wears 216 stone by Tiffany rings with diamonds. Home, Libertarian Party. LP.org. The Liberty Pledge is framed as a way for supporters to invest in liberty, aligning with the LP's philosophy of voluntary cooperation. Here's an example of the pledge's wording, though slight variations have existed. I certify that I oppose the initiation of force to achieve political or social goals. The pledge has been described as a membership certification, by some, as the term pledge, or oath, can be controversial among members who prefer to avoid such connotations. It's designed to ensure members align with the party's philosophy of non-violence and voluntary cooperation, while also serving as a safeguard against accusations of advocating violent overthrow of the government, especially in the context of the 1970s political climate. Examples include flat or no income taxes, privatizing social security, as in Chile legalizing recreational marijuana, as in Uruguay, and reducing military budgets. Platforms are typically crafted through member input and ratified at conventions, ensuring alignment with core principles. Policies often address specific issues like tax abolition, drug legalization, gun rights, and ending corporate welfare, tailored to the country's context. Party structure. National and local affiliates. Most libertarian parties, like the US Libertarian Party, operate with a National Committee, Libertarian National Committee, and state, or regional affiliates to coordinate campaigns, membership, and outreach. Grassroots focus emphasizes decentralized, volunteer-driven efforts, reflecting the anti-hierarchical ethos of libertarianism. Conventions holds regular national and state conventions to nominate candidates, set platforms, and elect leadership. Non-interventionist foreign policy advocates for avoiding foreign wars, entangling alliances, and military overreach. Supports free trade and diplomacy, but opposes nation-building and imperialistic policies. Personal responsibility emphasizes that individuals are responsible for their own actions, choices, and well-being, rejecting government paternalism. Encourages voluntary charity and community solutions over state-run welfare programs. Opposes central banking calls to end the Federal Reserve in the US and fiat currency, often favoring sound money like gold or cryptocurrencies. Free markets promotes laissez-faire capitalism, emphasizing voluntary transactions without government subsidies, tariffs, or excessive regulations. Supports property rights, free trade, and entrepreneurial freedom. Limited government seeks to reduce government to its minimal functions, typically limited to protecting individual rights courts, police, defense against external threats. Opposes government overreach in areas like education, healthcare, welfare, and business regulation. Advocates abolishing or privatizing many government agencies and services. Core principles: individual liberty. Prioritizes personal freedom in all aspects of life, including speech, association, lifestyle, and self-ownership. Advocates for the right to make personal choices: drug use, marriage, self-defense without government interference, provided no harm is done to others. Supports the non-aggression principle, which holds that initiating force against others is illegitimate, except in self-defense. While specific platforms vary by country and party, the core framework is consistent across most libertarian parties. The key framework of a libertarian party, based on the principles of libertarianism, as exemplified by the US Libertarian Party and similar organizations globally, revolves around maximizing individual liberty, minimizing government intervention, and promoting free markets. Germany, regulated prostitution and progressive social policies align with some libertarian personal freedoms, but heavy taxation and government involvement in the economy do not. Netherlands, legalized marijuana and regulated prostitution reflect personal freedom, but high taxes up to 52% and extensive regulations deviate from libertarianism. Critics argue that pure libertarianism could lead to increased crime, illiteracy, or insecurity without government intervention. While libertarians counter that free markets and voluntary associations can address these issues, the absence of real world examples fuels skepticism about its feasibility. Economic freedom indices show that countries with more libertarian policies like Switzerland or New Zealand tend to have higher prosperity, but even these nations maintain significant government roles. Historical context. Some argue the 19th century UK and USA were closer to libertarian ideals with laissez-faire capitalism, but social conservatism, slavery, and other issues meant they were not truly libertarians. Equilibrium versus optimality. Libertarians acknowledge that liberty is not a stable equilibrium, as government tends to expand over time per Thomas Jefferson and Milton Friedman. The lack of a purely libertarian country does not invalidate the philosophy, just as poverty does not discredit charity. Libertarianism is seen as an ideal to strive for, not a guaranteed outcome. Switzerland leads in economic and personal freedom, with low government spending and decentralized governance. Argentina has a libertarian-leaning president.
Uruguay, Costa Rica, Denmark, Estonia, New Zealand, Chile, and Australia have libertarian or classical liberal parties, but these often blend with other ideologies or face high tax, high regulation environments. Monaco, Andorra, Netherlands, and Germany show libertarian traits like low/no income taxes or personal freedoms, but maintain significant government roles. Liberland is a symbolic libertarian experiment but lacks recognition. Monaco and Andorra lack income taxes, earning them tax haven status, appealing to libertarian economic ideals. However, social regulations and high social insurance taxes in Monaco limit their libertarian purity.
as defined by the principles of minimal government intervention, laissez-faire economics, and maximal individual liberty, as advocated by the U.S. Libertarian Party or similar organization. No country in the world currently has a fully libertarian government. The party struggled with internal debates between purists advocating strict libertarian principles and pragmatists seeking broader appeal. Notable candidates included Ron Paul, 1988, a former Republican congressman, who returned to the GOP but remained influential in libertarian circles. The party also faced challenges with ballot access due to restrictive state laws. 1970s growth. The party gained traction with early activists like Ed Clark, who ran for California governor in 1978 and focused on building state affiliates. By 1979, it had ballot access in multiple states. 1972. The party fields its first presidential ticket with John Hospers and Tony Nathan, who ran on a platform of reducing government size and scope. The party emerged during a time of political unrest, with the Vietnam War, Nixon's wage and price controls, and distrust in government fueling its creation. Its core philosophy is rooted in individual liberty, free markets, and minimal government intervention, drawing from classical liberalism and thinkers like Ayn Rand, Ludwig von Mises, and Murray Rothbard. The Libertarian Party of the United States was founded on December 11, 1971, in Colorado Springs, Colorado, by a group of individuals led by David Nolan, a political activist frustrated with the growing statism of both major parties. Critics point out that the NAP can lead to challenges in addressing collective problems, like environmental issues or public goods, and may oversimplify complex social dynamics. For example, a libertarian might argue that taxation violates the NAP because it involves taking money under threat of punishment. In practice, the NAP guides libertarian views on issues like taxation, often seen as coercive, government regulations, or military interventions, advocating for solutions based on mutual agreement or private property rights. It emphasizes voluntary interactions and condemns coercion, fraud, or violence. According to the NAP, actions like theft, assault, or murder are inherently wrong because they violate individual rights, while consensual activities, even if controversial, are permissible. The non-aggression principle, NAP, is a core tenet of libertarianism, stating that no one may initiate force or threaten to initiate force against another person or their property. The party typically fields candidates in elections but has limited success compared to the Democratic and Republican parties, often acting as a protest vote or influencing mainstream policy debate. Their platform is rooted in the principle of non-aggression, meaning no one should initiate force against others. Soldier Moon Magazine X Fire. Libertarians often support non-interventionist foreign policies, opposing military overreach, and prioritize individual responsibility over government welfare program. Founded in 1971, it advocates for personal freedom in areas like speech, association, and lifestyle, while promoting economic policies that favor minimal regulation, low taxes, and free trade. English. The Statue of Liberty is the official symbol of the Libertarian Party, but the porcupine is used to represent libertarianism because it is a defensive animal that doesn't harm anyone who leaves it alone. The Libertarian Party is a U.S. political party that emphasizes individual liberty, free markets, and limited government. For non-U.S. voters. If you're inquiring about a voter ID card status in India, visit the Voters Service Portal or use the Voter Helpline app. You'll need a reference number from your application to track its progress. Alternatively, contact your local electoral registration office in person or by phone. Check your status well before your state's voter registration deadline, often 15 to 30 days before an election. If you recently registered or updated your information, allow 1 to 2 business days for the system to reflect changes. Contact your county's voter registration office directly. You can find contact details through your state's election website or by calling a voter hotline at California 800-345-VOTE.